This week we'll be reviewing identity theft protection and how to properly protect yourself if somebody steals your identity for some type of financial gain. Really understand that privacy matters and know that there are some risks associated when you do share your personal information. Some of you may share passwords with your family, with friends, maybe even significant others, but really just be cautious of who you share those passwords with. Change your passwords often because a lot of times people may be able to guess your passwords, hackers may be able to guess your passwords, so it's a really good rule of thumb to change your password every 3 months. When it comes to ATM pins, really make sure that you don't share your ATM pin numbers with anybody, just because obviously that's linked directly to your checking account and you don't want anybody taking your money. But with PIN numbers, even when you're at the ATM, when you're at the store entering your PIN number for a purchase, make sure that you cover that up so nobody behind you can see what that PIN number is. Because a lot of times they're called shoulder surfers, and they'll look to see what you're typing in for your PIN number so they can steal your information later to get access to your account. Think about some times where it is appropriate to share your social security number. A lot of times when identity theft happens, people usually share their social security numbers because you can get a ton of information from that, especially financial information. When you're opening up bank accounts, when you're opening credit cards, or even looking at your credit report, the social security number is something that they'll always ask for first. So when thieves do get a social security number, it is like hitting a jackpot because they can pretty much get access to almost anything with that and the person's first and last name. Some ways that you would share your social security number is if you're starting a new job, when you're going to the DMV, you're doing things for the government, or at school, just to, again, confirm your identity and your citizenship with the U.S. But sometimes that you would never share your personal information or social security number would be through emails. No company will ever ask you for your social through an email. So if someone does ask you that, just know that that's a red flag and that you should call them in person, go to the company directly, but never share anything online, just because things can be shared easily and can be compromised or hacked. Also, at your age, if you guys are ordering items online, like clothes and things like that, just know that it is a red flag if any company asks you for your social. They will never ask you for that. Most websites will have some type of secure process if you are entering payment information, like through a debit card or credit card, but just always make sure with ordering that you are ordering from a legitimate site, a trusted site, and something that is reputable, and you can always look for reviews that are online if you're unsure. So the proper definition of identity theft is the fraudulent acquisition and use of a person's private identifying information, usually used for financial gain. So usually when people do steal identities from others, it's really because they want to steal money from them in some way. Whether that's stealing money directly from their account, they could be applying for credit or loans, anything like that will be considered identity theft. So with the risks of identity theft, there is a separate video that I will post in this folder for you to view, but these are just some questions to think about when it comes to identity theft in general. But what can you do to protect yourself from identity theft? What are some common ways identity thieves get your private information? And what are some preventable measures that you can take if you think your privacy has been compromised? So within that video, it will kind of list some 3 strategies that answer these 3 questions when it comes to deterring, detecting, and defending against identity theft. So how thieves get your information, there are numerous ways. One is changing addresses. A lot of times thieves will try to change your address through your bank, whether that's online, or they might try to find some other way to hack into it, but they will change your address so they can get statements directly to that changed address, and you will never know that they're stealing your account information. So even though you think like, oh, I'm not getting my statement, someone else is getting it, and that has all of your account information, your account balances, and everything. Stealing is also another obvious way of identity theft. People can steal mail, your wallet, or purses that may have private information. One thing in your wallet or purses that I would make sure that you never carry is your social security card. Make sure that your social security card with your number on it is somewhere safe at home. I know my husband and I keep it in a safe. Some people keep it at a safe deposit box at the bank. Wherever you keep it, just make sure that it's not accessible to others. More on stealing, there are some people who bribe others to get access to personal information. That's why it's really important that, if you work at a bank or somewhere where you handle private information, there are really strict rules around what information that you can keep out. Because a lot of people, if they know, oh, someone works at the bank, let me try to get them to give me account numbers or social security numbers of customers that they've helped, so I can steal their info and their identity and get access to their account. So that is unfortunately a way that people do get information, just by bribing people who they know are in the in and have access to information. With phishing, I know I've talked about this before, but phishing is really email or phone scams. A lot of times fraudsters will pretend to be a bank official or someone from the bank, and they will email or call somebody to get personal information. And typically, the people that they reach out to are elderly people because they are very vulnerable and they're really protective of their accounts. So a fraudster may call an elderly person and ask, there looks like there have been some suspicious activity on your account. Can you please give me your social security number so I can identify you? And elderly people will get really worried and give them their social security number. So unfortunately, they are the ones that are targeted, but there are some things put into place where banks will regularly review accounts, and if something is out of the normal, they will contact that person and make sure to educate them and make sure that they're not giving out personal information. I've talked about skimming devices before as well. These are just devices that are at ATM machines or point of sale purchase machines at gas stations. So it's really just the credit card machines when you're making a purchase. If you see any type of device or any wire sticking out of those, just move on, try to pay in person or use another machine, because a lot of those times those are devices that actually capture information from the data on your card. So whenever I go to the ATM or even the gas station, I always look to see if there's anything sticking out of the machine before I insert my card. Fraudsters will also go dumpster diving. They'll look through trash for your bills with your name and account numbers. With that, just make sure you shred any personal information. If you have a paper shredder at home, that's a good idea to destroy important documentation. I know if I don't personally have a shredder, but what I do is I tear up the document or statement, and I actually throw it into 2 different trash cans. That makes it really hard for someone who is dumpster diving to really put back the pieces together. But if anything, I know a lot of people are moving more towards electronic statements, so you don't have anything paper or hard copy that people could actually take. Then pretexting, this is when people use false information to get your personal information from banks or companies. In other words, they pretend to be you. I have seen instances of this where it's siblings or family members pretending to be somebody to get information. I remember helping a set of twins. One of the twins rather, he was one who had his identity stolen, and he was trying to figure out what happened, and then he figured out, or when we looked through cameras, that it was his twin brother. Of course, his twin brother actually knew all of his information. He knew all of his security questions because they were pretty common, or if you know your brother or your sibling, you probably would know them. So unfortunately, that does happen sometimes, but again, you just need to be sure that you update any of your security questions, passwords, and really make sure you have those securities in place so no one can pretend to be you and use your information to act on your behalf. Then, of course, there's hacking. I know there are a lot of people who are really computer savvy or very creative when it comes to getting personal information, but this is something that still happens today in many instances, whether it's small companies, personal people, or even big businesses. It happens, it's out there, and that's why companies are taking a huge precaution when it comes to protecting everybody's personal information. So what can people do with your information once they steal your identity? They can run charges on your account, open new accounts, open new bank accounts, or run bad checks. They'll drain your account and just try to do a lot of financial transactions with your information. So really just make sure that, again, all of this information, especially your social security number and your account numbers and even credit card info, you keep very separate in a safe place. If it is ever taken or ever compromised, just be sure that you call your credit card or bank right away to report that so they can put the proper safeguards in place. How to protect yourself, some of these things I've already mentioned, but only give out your social security number when necessary. Sign your debit cards or credit cards when you get them. I don't sign them. I put CID so they can actually check my driver's license and verify that it's me. Unfortunately, not a lot of people see that and they bypass that. I'm happy to pull out my ID whenever they do ask, but it's really scary to see when people don't ask you for ID, even if that's on the back of your card. Only carry your cards that you need. I wouldn't carry all of your debit cards, credit cards all at once. At your age, again, you probably only have one debit card, but as you get older and you accumulate more cards, just be sure to only carry the ones that you need. Keep your PIN number secret. Avoid obvious passwords and change them every 90 days, as I mentioned. Make sure that you store your personal information in a safe place. Don't give personal information over the phone or email. Be aware of shoulder surfers. So those are people who look at your PIN numbers from behind you when you're not aware. Be aware of blank spaces. I know that's something in 2020 that they were saying to make sure that you're aware of. If you write the date 1/1/20, people can manipulate the year to be another year and try to do some type of fraudulent activity in that way as well. Make sure that you destroy your documents properly and always check your credit report. Remember that everybody gets a free credit report every year, and it is good to check it on a yearly basis just to be sure no one is stealing your information and that everything is accurate. So some steps to take that if you are a victim of identity theft. Again, usually I've seen this when people have their bank accounts compromised. But the first thing that you want to do is to contact the fraud division on all 3 credit bureaus. So if you're not aware of all of the 3 credit bureaus, they're Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. When you do get a credit report from annualcreditreport.com, it will give you a credit report from all 3 of these bureaus. So that's really a good benefit of checking your credit every year. However, when you do file a fraud claim, it'll kind of communicate to each of these fraud divisions, or you'll want to call each of these fraud divisions so they can put that identity theft alert on your account. Next, you're going to want to file a complaint with the Federal Trade Commission. They will kind of help track down and do a more thorough investigation of how your identity was stolen. Contact police. I know that's something that I've recommended to customers when I would work with them at the bank if you did want to file a report. I know sometimes there is a long follow-up, but if you are persistent and you follow up with the police, they'll give you some updates, and if they do catch the perpetrator, they will contact you as well, and you can kind of go from there, just depending on the severity of the case. Then you would contact your credit card companies and your bank just to help put freezes or alerts on your account as well if that person is trying to get into any of your accounts. So really, I know I put this in in numerical steps. Really, you can do this in any order. I would normally go to credit card companies and banks first, and then from there they can help you with the rest of these steps. And another good resource if your identity is stolen is to go to identitytheft.gov. This website helps to create a recovery plan for victims, especially if the identity theft did result in a huge financial loss. And with that, they'll help you kind of make sure, again, that you've walked through all of the steps and that you can protect yourself going forward in the future.